Cleaning the body. Cleaning the body is of utmost importance for the light of the real awareness to descend into the body so that we begin to have the perception and recognition of true reality. But if the body is clogged with debris, toxins, heavy metals, it creates densities in the inner bodies. Ultimately, these conditions perception of reality. So, what do you say about this, Duane, and what advice can you give on being a pure channel for the real guides?
Okay, first of all, we don't use the word channel. That's a psychic term. Paul used that, but I would say that's a no-no, simply because, yeah. But anyhow, it's okay. Here's the idea, all right? Let's just imagine yourself as the view looking at your 5 bodies, okay? You see 5 bodies there, like the little marching men that Paul did. Now, you're objectively looking at them. Now, you've had this view before, if you remember it or not. And so you look at each body. You see the physical, the astral, the causal, the mental. And I'm assuming that you've studied the basic faculties of this. And I just wrote a group going over this a day or two ago. Kelsey probably remembers. So the physical is basically the 5 senses. The physical body is the dumping ground. Okay, everything comes, from high to low, just like anything else. Something falls from the sky, it eventually hits the ground, just like those satellites and whatever up there. Eventually they crash to the ground. So everything that goes up eventually comes down. So you have the physical body and just basically the 5 senses, like Paul broke it down. And you have the astral body, which is your emotions, your sensations, these things, your passions, etc. The emotional spark. You have the causal, which is your memory body, basically those things that, that you've experienced in this lifetime that we call the past, and then past lifetimes also. Then you have your mind body, which frames things literally, your mental body, into the ideas that we utilize. And then you have your etheric, which is really your intuition, is the best part of it, but there's also the subconscious part of it that houses those unseen things that the real awareness creates that the mind does not see for the most part. You see, that's your subconscious or unseen part. And so you can utilize the intuitive part to gain insight, like I've said, to recognize your real awareness. But it is you operating these bodies, Charles. So when it comes to the real you is operating these bodies, even though most people don't recognize this, it still makes it so. So people can drive down the road and not know where they're going, but yet their car is still going and they're still in it. So they're still the driver, whether they realize where they're going or not, right? So the same is with these 5 bodies. We have these 5 bodies because we need this objective view of ourselves to eventually recognize what is not real. We really need that experience to get to the point where we recognize all that is not real according to the isness life is. That's the whole idea. It's not about good or bad or right or wrong. that keeps you in the framed ideas and the personal stuff and emotions and memory and whatever, all these body subconscious. See, it keeps you tied there with all these other ideas according to the ideas you've already created. So objectively looking at it, let's say you've got something going on in the physical. Let's say you've got a cold or the flu or a disease or something like that, etc. So you are the real awareness, and you're viewing these 5 bodies. Now, you can just deal with it in the physical sense. Maybe drink orange juice, or we do the Julian juice with the John Ellis water, which is great. Or whatever, lemonade or herbs or whatever, Chinese herbs or whatever. So you're taking care of it, this mechanism in the physical sense, all right? But if you let it, all of a sudden you decide, okay, I want to become upset by this, okay? So all of a sudden now you involve your emotional body. It's like, okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my emotional body in, and I'm going to have an emotional attitude about this, and I'm going to bring the mind body in too, because I'm going to create an idea that affects the emotional body to get upset about what's taking place in my physical body. You see how it works? And then those reactions that I've created are going to also be engaged and be stored into the unconscious body, you see, for future reference. So when I want to get upset in the future, all I have to do is unconsciously act out the same idea, and again, it affects everything. You see how that all works?
Yeah.
It's you deciding whatever. And we all get caught up in this. I do too sometimes. It's silly. I watch myself do this, and then I got to unscramble myself from it, because it is hard to stay focused in a particular with the personal self. Yes, and so, but you have the basis. This is where your intent comes in. So here we are objectively looking at the 5 bodies. Now, we're just a viewpoint. That's all you are. You're just a view. You're the experiencer. But we use the bodies to relate to ourselves in a particular way until we recognize that we're just a view occupying, and, because we created these bodies. We really did, because there's a part of us that we don't even recognize that did all this, that created it. And so there is something else about us, and that is, which is all invisible, and that is our intent. You see? And the intent is very important, isn't it? Well, most people don't recognize what their intent is. They're just using their thinking body and their emotional bodies to think about something and react, so they think that that's their intent. But it's not. It's not at all. And this is why in the corporation, in the world, and everything you see, people are doing what they're doing, because they don't recognize their intent. They just utilize ideas that sound good, that seem to be working, like the business world. Did the Indians have businesses? Not really. They did some trading and whatever, but for the most part, they're good examples of just, being with, being with, not working with, but being with the natural environment. But today, we have a created environment that people work with. There's a difference, and really struggle with. And they think this is really something, because, again, people have been seduced into the business world. And this really all came from Europe. Look at the so-called United States before the Europeans came here. You see, they were the business people. They were the bankers, etc. They set up the United States as a takeover country, because it wasn't that before they were here. So people started to accept, of course they were forced, but they started to accept these ideas and these emotions and etc. You see, so being objective. So you're asking about the health aspects. Well, again, that's choice. You can keep it in the physical sense, which is really like mechanics. Okay, so for me, I've learned through fasting and whatever, if I eat too much or if I eat the wrong foods, I know how to get it out right away so that I'm not ill. But then again, to tell you the truth, when I'm kind of ill and feeling kind of woozy and whatever, I really enjoy it. it's kind of like a little bit of a bliss to where you can just let go. It's like, oh, it's that one of those aha moments. I just go with it. I don't fight it. I don't take anything. I do the best I can. And I've gone through some really radical ones where I was attacked, where it was days where I was ill. You know what? I just go with it. I'm not hungry. I'm not anything. It's just nice to just rest, and I just kind of let it go. And so this was a little harder when I had my construction business, of course, but I'm very rarely ill or sick or whatever. Since I've been with Ava, I've had several attacks in the hospital. That was different, but that wasn't an illness, and dealt with that. But when it comes to the physical health of the person, they determine that. But again, the individual also determines how they're going to define what they're going through. And so if it's something like cancer or whatever like that, yeah, this all of a sudden can be emotionally upsetting. So the emotional body gets upset. The mind starts going off and creating ideas about, oh, this could happen or this or that. And you're hearing ideas from the doctors and others saying, oh, this is really bad. We've got to act fast. We've got to do this. We've got to douse her with gasoline and etc. Whatever it is, chemotherapy, and are these the choices? And so you're kind of in a panic mode, and you don't feel very intuitive at that point to look at other things, etc. You see, as you learn to be objective and use comparisons in your life, instead of just taking on the ideas that have been created, etc., unless they make sense. It's like growing plants or whatever. We know how to do that, so we just plant them in the ground, they grow. That makes sense. It's a non-think thing. We don't really have to think about it. It's just automatic with what is taking place. But when it comes to these things that we're not aware of what's going on with ourselves in the health aspect, it becomes another situation. But we can think in our minds, oh, I'm fine, everything's fine, etc., I'll be fine. And that's fine. It's an individual nature. But now you see objectively what's going on and how you can take care of the situation, Charles, if it's health, okay, and do the best you can to make sense of it, because everybody's a little different. And the boys will give you hints on the real side. They show me things all the time. If it's grapefruit, bananas, the last one I had about a week or so ago was cooked carrots. They show me, and also red grapes. So compared to I was eating peanuts and raisins, and I was on a train and did the red grapes instead, and let the peanuts and the raisins go for a while. So, but it goes back and forth. But they will show you also. But it just depends upon the person's paying attention. But what I wanted to show you is that how we define the experience we're having and where it goes with it, etc., and how we deal with it. But again, the bigger picture is always the awareness. And even if a person is deathly ill, it's all about their awareness and how they, and their intent, you see. And once that intent is set, in other words, just like a desire that you have, once you say, you know what, I'm gonna be a millionaire. I'm gonna make $1 million this lifetime. Well, you set that intent, you see. But if you set your intent to where, recognizing the isness, and this is universal positioning, to stand real with that, then you still deal with all the other things, the health issues and whatever, but you have a better view. But at the same time, you set your intent to where that shows up, to where eventually all these other things dissipate. You don't even need the 5 bodies anymore. That's the best part. You don't have to deal with this burden of these bodies. But that's up to you. You decide your journey. So again, getting back to the health thing, each individual decides how they're going to deal with it. So, for the most part, I'm fine with everything. It's just like the weather. I don't care what the weather is. I'm fine with it. Cold, stormy, or whatever. And some people will say, well, it's a bad day. It's always now. I get to focus on the isness. And so that's the best part of it. And I just deal with the rest because I know that it'll eventually pass and evaporate like fog in the sun because of my intent. Very important, that intent. And to build upon that, you decide your real position. And it's scary. It is, because it's all invisible, it's all unknown, and you cannot consider it. but it's everything. So yes, so the bottom of the barrel is the personal self and the health aspects, yes, and Paul talked about that. That's why he wrote Herbs the Magic Healers, to give people the advantage to at least take care of themselves so they don't get emotionally and mentally distraught over what the personal self is going through, so they can focus on something better. But for the most part, eventually people do. And just like the idea where if somebody loses a family member or a friend or whatever, they get distraught and they even shake their fist at the heavens and say, why did God do this? See, all of a sudden, you've created ideas that encase you. You don't need to do that. You don't need to get weird with it. And see that everybody has their experiences and that it'll be okay. But again, that's why I wrote and had the girls, be witnesses with the Marjorie Klemp experience, because of her intent and the deals she made, and all that equaled her going into a real bad position that she decided but did not completely see at the time. You see? So again, you got to pay attention. Me too. I am. I'm doing the best I can. So there you go, Charles. That's one idea.
Yeah, Duane, I'm going to narrate a story while I was still back in my country. I visited I was very curious and adventurous. I visited the Sai Baba temple in Douala, Cameroon. And my intent was to go into the temple, their place of worship, and see how the place is. So I got into the room there, into where they do their whether their meditations or their recitations or whatever. So a big photo of Sai Baba from top to bottom. It was dressed in red, and the whole temple was decorated in red. It was, and while I was there, I thought I was singing the Hue song, the Hue chant, to protect myself from any negative vibrations. Today, I just laugh at what I was doing, because the Hue song maybe did nothing to protect me. And I remember that night I had very scary real side experiences. People came to attack me, and because I went there with the spirit of defiance. I was saying in my mind that the corporation, the Kanka, was higher than whatever they were doing there. So I went there to neutralize the vibrations. But I got attacked at night. It was very, very scary. And I would borrow from this experience to say something about the color that I found in the temple, red. So we also find that the Church of Satan finally opened in Colombia in the U.S. The church seats are red. The altar has a red tablecloth, red crosses, and a photo of the two-horned Baphomet in the middle. And its priests put on red shirts or T-shirts, the white coats and trousers. So I want to add, what's the significance of colors in things of dealing with the beyond? Saying that we also have the real guides all dressed in blue. Uh, could their photos also show them dressed in red, yellow, orange, or green? So, what is the significance of these colors? These colors, Duane?
Well, it's whatever, really. It's like the rainbow. It has all the colors, and it's wonderful. What the rainbow is not defining itself according to what you just mentioned. And personally, I never really cared for red, but I don't wear red anything. I just really don't go along with the color. But you'll notice in a lot of restaurants they use red because it sparks the emotions. It's a particular passion in its own way, and I've had experiences where I've been in red vehicles, and then I had a little help too, even looking at it objectively, and realized that that was my passion. That exemplified my passion for what I'm doing here. See, there's a difference. And so like the Church of Satan, and you see the Vatican, they wear red and black. Paul talked about that. Those mixtures become like evil. Okay, but again, it's what it's used for, etc. In the business world, black means your business is doing good. You're in the black. If you're in the red, you're not doing good. And so again, it just depends upon the definition and the individual, what they decide with it. I like the blue. Now, Paul used baby blue, okay, because it had more light in it. So he was using the blue like the images we see in Skype here. They're the baby blue. But as I came along here and I saw the new wave, more so like the ocean, I decided to go with the navy blue, okay, because it kind of aligned. That was kind of the idea with the new wave. More so than even royal blue. Okay, but in a lot of our pictures we use the sky. It's more of a royal blue. We don't usually use that, but accordingly. And then Ava, we started doing the suits the boys wear in the navy blue. Okay, because the navy idea is about the ocean, isn't it? So again, it's kind of like that. And the village people sang that song, join the Navy, etc. But that's a joke. But on the real side, the boys are wearing the dark blue now. Rebazar doesn't really wear his maroon robe anymore. That was the identity at that time. That was their idea at the time, and the Eckmaster idea and the Master idea. They're not doing that anymore because it's the new nowness, etc. So, the colors, you're seeing it. But they use the colors to possess others. That's what they're using the colors for, like the Vatican. And they dress in white, too, with their big hats. And, those hats that the Vatican wore, those tall hats, were to originally hide the big heads they had, which were reptilian. That's why they started wearing those, because, again, instead of baseball caps, like a lot of people wear, or football helmets or motorcycle helmets, they wore these tall hats to hide that big part of their head that went way up, just like in the movie Aliens, where they have that big part of their head going way back up, you see? That was the whole idea of those big hats. Well, it just became traditional custom that it becomes so. And so, you look at the colors, and Rebazar talked about this in the past when Paul was around, the different colors. But, it's the colors really don't matter. It's really the idea behind the colors, etc. So if there's the girl in the red dress and she wants to exemplify something, red is very startling. So especially with women when they wear these things in black high heels or whatever, or boots or whatever, they want to exemplify something. It's the attitude behind that, and also they want to be influenced, or they want to influence other. Again, it's the attitude. And so, but I like the colors of nature. I like the sky. I like the sun shining. That's what I like. That's really what I like. And the colors of the ocean and the aqua and whatever, and the greens that are just very real with how the natural environment really is according to the isness of life. The isness of life provides what it does. And before, you might say, people deciding something came on the planet, the place was basically pristine according to the isness life is. And so now we're we're living all these ideas of others, and so what you're seeing at that particular time and right now, these people use these things, use these ideas. They see how people are swayed this way and that way, so they use these colors and ideas to do that. But I look at the rainbow. Rainbows are awesome. They've got the red, the yellow, the green, the blues in them, etc. It's a whole different, experience, isn't it, with rainbows as opposed to what is artificially created here. And most of those red color seeds are vinyl, aren't they? Whatever. And so, it's interesting what we're experiencing. So we need to experience what isn't real. And this, I would say, because we're here and we have the awareness opportunity that we do to become more aware with all these things, all these destructive things, purposely planned destructive things that are taking place. So this should motivate the individual to want to see more, to more so become more aware and stand real with the all is, as opposed to just being drug along for more lifetimes of this same nonsense. It's going to even get worse. So yeah, the colors are very interesting, and they pick those colors to market a particular way. Look at what Joni does. It's so interesting since Paul's day. Paul set it up with the blue suit and the master idea, and here comes Darwin, and here comes Harry, especially, etc. They do the same thing. They take his title, and they mimic the same thing. But now what they're doing is that they're marketing what Paul started, okay, because people work off tradition in the past, to their advantage of controlling others. There becomes the difference. It's a 180, isn't it, from what it was? It's the other side of the coin. Yeah, so these other things apply too, and it's obvious to see what's going on with the colors that people use, and mostly in marketing, whoever it is, most of the marketers use red. Trump really likes red. Yeah, he really likes red. He's very passionate, and that's control too. In his aspect, that's control. And so this is where, in a few Skypes back, that I guess Trump was coming up to where Bob and Sandy lived up there. So I suggested they, make extra money and sell tomatoes and pass them out to the audience because Trump likes red, So we'll see. But anyhow, yes, you know what it's about. You see where it's defined. And it's not about the color. It's about how people identify with it and mainly market it to subdue and control others.
Well, let me add something to this color thing. I've read that one way to stimulate the base chakra is by simply wearing red clothes. Just have red around you. You stimulate this chakra. It would will open it or whatever, and this deals with the grounding effect, and then it is also a very, it is the last is the base chakra. It deals with this world and with all what we know about it, emotional sentiments and all whatnot. And you will find that it's very exciting. Red, as you just mentioned, it's very exciting, very scintillating, and you realize that during bullfighting, it suffices to to show the bull a red cloth, and it starts charging. It becomes very angry, very aggressive. So it's always a red cloth that they use to get the bull into action. So red is stimulating. Red excites. Red, the red color also stimulates the base chakra, the Muladhara chakra, opens it, and that chakra has the effect of grounding one, as they say. So that is an addition to this color thing, color red. So if you transpose this into the religious arena, you find that these religions are just that use red and all the like, just of this world. You can see it very clearly. They are very earthy, very just of at this life level, I want to say, and they appeal to the emotions. They excite people with whatever they say and their messages and all the like. They get people emotionally worked up and all that.